Hello and welcome. It's Sunday morning. We need to get caffeinated so badly. My God. This is Art of Rock, where we're going to sit around and talk about creative things and get inspired to do creative things and art and stuff. Before we start, there's a couple of amazing things going on in the ethos that I want to talk about. The first thing is this thing you are on right now. It happens every Sunday. Every Sunday. And if it's not every Sunday, then I have to buy everyone champagne. Except last week. So join us here every Sunday. And follow Angelspit's Twitch, goddammit. This is made possible by Angelspit's Patreon. These people are all around me and these people keep me going, and it is my hope and prayer that I can keep them going sincerely as we keep spiraling into insanity. There's always new Angelspit merch. Go check it out, including CDs that are like insanely inexpensive. CDs are making a comeback. I can't believe this. They're making a comeback. It's official, and there's also a whole bunch of new stuff happening on Angelspit's Bandcamp, including Ice Planet 9000, which is a new project that Angelspit is heavily involved with, and we will be releasing something soon that is going to blow your skull. In the meanwhile, we just did a recording, an improvisation. We're doing improvisations every second Thursday, and it's basically wankerage on synthesizers, and it's great fun, and you can get it right there. Plus, you can also buy a whole bunch of the recordings on Ice Planet 9000's Bandcamp, or if you're on the Patreon, you can download it for free. I just worked on a single with a band from Turkey called Els and the Cult. I want you to check out Els and the Cult because he's queer, and being queer in a Muslim country is really difficult. And this guy is fantastic. I love what he is doing, and we're about to release an album together, and it's going to be brash. And here's Walt. I love this guy. He's a brilliant composer, and he's got a lot of attitude, and he's a gentleman, and you need to check out his tracks because they're epic and very relevant, let me tell you. And if you want your non-stop 24-hour-a-day mayhem music ka-ching, get on MTV TV. Just do it right now. MTV TV. And we're going to be rating there afterwards because you need to have it on in the background in every single thing you do. Well, welcome. This is Art of Rock, and I'm going to throw it now to Jim and Kerry, who've got a fantastic question about hooking stuff up.
Actually, I got really mad at it yesterday, and I figured it out. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was furious.
That's all right. That's all right.
I was furious. I figured it out.
I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of things, and I'm glad Anger did settle things because Anger says, like, can I pimp a piece of gear I recently bought? I bought a new piece of gadgetry for the modular synthesizer, and I want to show you. It's an hourglass. Look at that. Legit. It's an hourglass. This is a 15-minute hourglass. Because I'm getting into these like long form improvisation things, and I have an hourglass. I saw this this French woman who uses an ARP 2500 and an hourglass and makes the most amazing soundscapes you've ever heard, and I love them. So I bought an hourglass and it cost me $5. How hardcore am I? As I am trying to buy no gear this year. No, that rhymes. No gear this year. Maybe it's because of my strange Australian accent. Okay, well, since we figured out that first question, let's go. What do you got? Hit me with a question, a rhythm stick. A question. Hit me slowly. Hit me quick. Julius, what do you got? You're always asking me something brilliant. Go.
Well, hello. Let me think. Yes, I think the week before the last week, 2 weeks ago, you talked about being self-employed as a musician.
Yes.
I think. Yes, I wasn't there. I rewatched this episode, and I have another question after this. I'm wondering, can you actually get a steady job in the music industry just by experience? Without having a musical education or an education as an audio engineer? Can anybody answer that?
So are you talking about from somebody who is not making a living from their own music? Or are you talking about being an audio engineer or being a promotional person or something?
The second.
Okay, cool. Rob, if you have input on this, I'd like to hear it because I know you're knee deep in this.
Yeah, it's. I would say that it's place dependent, depending on where you are on the planet. Because where I am in Orlando, there's a lot of game industry and a lot of film industry, and so there's an expectation that you have done some kind of associate degree in media or production or audio engineering or filmmaking. And there are a couple of colleges here that really crank the handle and get people out into industry. So it's kind of like an expectation that somebody's got some basic learning skills already behind them. And that's generally easier to gauge than asking somebody about their experience personally for the last 10 years. And they've got to ask a lot of questions to find out if you've actually got that rudimentary knowledge, as opposed to saying, yes, I completed an associate degree or a bachelor's degree in film and audio. And they go, okay, I got it. I understand that program. I know exactly what you've done. Other parts of the world where they don't have that concentration of production and schooling, absolutely. Like, seriously, I've met people in the industry who have been carpenters and school teachers their whole life. So, you know, if you've got skills and you can demonstrate those skills rapidly, you can get yourself a job. But it's got to be in the right demographic. And now that we're all online, that can be a little bit more challenging. So it's all about proving yourself. Over.
Thanks. Really excellent point. Almost everything I've done in my other work, like podcasting and mixing and all that shit, is because I have bumbled into it and I have known somebody and I have shown them that I can do it. Music is the music industry and movies are really interesting because there's something I notice in people who work in these industries, and that is when they're off the clock, they're loud, crazy people, blah, 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 mad, bad, man. But the minute you're on, or the minute, and theater, the minute something's up, they drop, they change, and they go into get it done mode. And there is this flip. And the thing about it is, you need to be able to fix stuff that, or do stuff, come up with a solution to a problem where no university is going to teach you how to do that. Nevertheless, a university background is usually really important. Or not. Basically exactly what Rob said. Like, for example, my brother-in-law is one of the main guys working on the new James Cameron Avatar movies. And he often says that he gets kids out of high school, out of the universities and stuff around LA. And although they're really good at the rudimentary stuff, the art of puzzle solving and problem solving is very difficult to teach. So when you say to someone, I need to establish this shot or do this thing, and it's outside the boundaries of what you've learned, some people have trouble doing that. And it's like the conversation we were having before, where you need to produce something that is world class. You have no money and you have no time, but you have to do it. Problem solving things such as these, you know, it's this thing that you've got. So I totally didn't answer your question, but thank you, Rob, for answering the question.
Oh, no, you did. You did.
Yeah. So does anybody else have something they want to throw in there? And on that, I'll also add, I did audio mixing for my wife's dance company on the weekend, and one of the guys I was working for is a carpenter, and he was my audio second. And he was saying how he kind of stumbled into it because he did carpentry, and he has a basic knowledge of lights and also a basic knowledge of audio. But he's trained as a carpenter. And if you do carpentry, there is still a lot of work for that in the movies, obviously, and there's a lot of work for that in the theater. And my advice also is that being a master of one trade and a jack in several other trades is really important in entertainment, because if you do audio for the week leading up to the show and then the show, Walt, I hate you. You've got your audio work, but if you've got a basic knowledge of carpentry, you can have a month's worth of employment lined up before the show because you're helping build the sets. Diana, I see your hand, and I love your wisdom. Hit me with your rhythm stick.
Well, I mean, a lot of the jobs I've had over the years are, I've almost fallen into them. Yes, I've had some of the university background, but I've had management skills and other jobs that have translated into some of the theater jobs I've done. And sometimes it's more of a, are you willing to do this? Can you, are you willing to do the problem solving? And sure, I'll do that. And it ended up being that I'm working in a box office. Corporate sponsorships, or, things that, they're not, all music related, but they are because they are part of the whole part of the business of the music. So sometimes you end up in one job that leads you to the one you want to do. It may not necessarily be the route you want to take, but things that I was doing in the theater have now translated into things I'm doing for MTV TV. Little plug there. But sometimes you have to learn how to translate what you've done in one job into the next job. And a lot of times it's a matter of just dive in and say, sure, that's what I'm going to do today. I don't know if it's wisdom as much as, hey, you're not doing this right now. Why don't you try it? All right. Sometimes it's not your first highest paid job, but getting the experience will translate to other things along the way. I don't know if I'm explaining myself really clearly, but most of the jobs I've taken are because, I've had some experience in another job doing administrative work or fixing things behind the scenes. It's a lot of translation work, if that makes any sense. It translates from one job to the next. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's good. And actually, now this is really interesting because you brought up the point about how a lot of the stuff you learn on jobs that seem to have nothing to do with MTV TV plug, you are now using on MTV TV. And when you watch MTV TV, there's so many new bands happening. It's crazy. Even if you email those guys with your tracks, they'll play it. MTV TV, this is what our scene's been needing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You need MTV TV right now. But it's really interesting that when I learn about administration and accounting and tax and all of this other really boring stuff that I would not have got this far in Angelspit if I did not know that really boring administration stuff. Because it seems to be something a lot of people forget about, being a full-time musician or artist or whatever, is a lot of what you're going to be doing is administration. You can't afford to pay anyone else to do administration because those people are going to pay you, are going to be charging you at full-time professional administrative jobs. You got to learn this shit. So, yeah. And another really interesting thing is that for me to say, hey, I have a degree in music, it's got me through the door of a lot of things, but no one's ever asked me more about it. And no one's, it's funny that not really a lot of the stuff I learnt in university is Actually, some of it is. I was going to say that not really. I don't really pull on a lot of it, but I actually do in bits and pieces, quite a lot. The most important thing I learned in university, no, that's not fair that I will say that. A very important thing I learned in university was how to correctly wrap cables and how to correctly put those cables on a wall so that if it's dark, you can go and reach them, and everything has a place, and once you're done, put them back in their place, which is something my parents tried to teach me with my Lego when I was a child, but of course I didn't listen. So they taught it to me at university. I'm serious, how to wrap cables. If you don't wrap cables right on when I'm head audio, I'll fire you. If you do this, leave the set now. Because if you don't know how to wrap a cable, you don't know about signal flow, you don't know about correct procedure, you don't know how to safely put a speaker on top of a stick, you don't know how to plug stuff in. It's kind of like Van Halen and the bowl full of red M&Ms, that if you don't have it, you're out. So yeah, learn how to wrap cables. That's... I'm sorry. Can somebody else ask a question or push something or something? Rob, your voice, your hand, go.
Yeah, I'm interested to know, Julius, what area of the music industry or the production or theatre or audio industry you're interested in, because that makes a big difference on what skills you're going to push forward and profess that you know something about.
Do you mean area as a topographic region, or
no,
what field?
Yeah, what field of the industry? I mean, you can be a gaff guy with a microphone, or build a set, or you can be an audio engineer, or there's so many different jobs that you can have to make your way to where you want to be. What's that end state look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would prefer would be like being a mixing engineer or an audio engineer, actually. Yeah. That's it.
So that's an interesting challenge, because with COVID and all, everyone's working from home. You've got a big trend in a lot of large studios migrating back home, and that creates some challenges for people to get internships and work experience because they're decentralizing. Is anyone else experiencing that challenge?
Yes, if I may. Hold on. Wait, what's going on here? I'm here. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I need to adjust the volume ever so slightly. So this is actually interesting. Something else back to my brother-in-law. That the team that are working on this movie are all back home now, and they've been home for a year now. And because it's working so economically, there's a lot of questions going around of, do we actually go back into the office? Do we go back into the studio? Do we need to go back into the studio because this is working so well? And meanwhile, they're wanting other people's contact and connectivity. The thing about when you work together in a space is that the intern comes in and let me show you how to do this thing, or let me stand over your shoulder and give you some critique. It's hard to do that over a Zoom. It's the flip side of that is that a lot more work's being farmed out, because if you already have the gear and if you have the know-how and if you can do it, I can just email you the stems, you can do the mix and you can send it back. But like Rob was saying, we're in the most curious time right now, because it's not just the where you work, but it's the entire work structure that is changing as well. And so many companies are going, we don't need to have a studio. Like when I used to live in Hollywood Hills, there was a guy I'd always bump into, and he did sound design, and he'd go to Warner's every day, sit at the big desk, la 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 la. He was saying, I don't do that anymore. We don't need to do that. I'll probably be working from home for the rest of my life. So in the meanwhile, my advice to you is mix heaps of stuff. When you have the opportunity to mix stuff, mix it. And if you want to learn about mixing, follow rock and roll. Not just electronic music. In fact, how do I say this really carefully? The great producers and mixers do rock and roll, not electronic music. And I know people are going to disagree with me on that one, but if you can mix guitars and bass to make it sound like Van Halen, welcome back. I hate you so much. We were watching Lord of the Rings yesterday, actually. Yeah, fuck you. If you can mix guitar and bass like a rock and roll mix, you will be able to do an electro mix as well. Because for some reason it translates one way, but I've just found it doesn't really translate the other way for me anyway. Like, I can't really attack rock and roll with an electronic perspective because the frequency response and everything is different. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm prattling now. Julius, I see your hand. Go.
I would even go as far to say try to mix every genre you can, like blues, country, everything, just for the experience and to get your ears some practice.
Excellent. Fine advice. Does anybody else want to add to that, or does anybody else have another question? I had a question, but I forgot it. So does anybody have a question?
I was just going to say, because I got to go again in just a second, but I was just going to say there are great resources for mixing metal and rock at Nail the Mix. If you go look that up, Nail the Mix. They have like a list of producers that do videos and like exposés on how they put their mixes together and how they mix their guitars and their bass and their drums and how they get all of that done. And you can find there's a huge resource there. So Nail the Mix can really help.
Awesome. And before you go, Rob, I am working on the track. Give me a week or two. I think you got that. Alex, I see your hand. Go.
Yes, it's quite well connected to what Walt said, because I was going to ask if you weren't afraid to spend maybe $100 or so, what would be the best way to get into mixing in resources? Because I think watching YouTube videos is nice, but I feel it's not very effective. Like, you have to search for the good stuff, and this time you could be actually learning it. And maybe what would be a good way to learn it if you do practically do it?
All right. If I may, I actually think the best spin of $100 you could do is to buy a masterclass from somebody who is a class act producer. Because education, man. So much of the rudimentary stuff that you need to do, you can do on software synths, and you can learn your way around a software synth. Like, if you found a desk that is going to actually really truly do what you want it and need it to do, it's going to cost you a lot of money, because it's going to have a full band parametric. It's probably going to have a built-in compressor, blah 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 blah. This is thousands and thousands of dollars. Or you can just get yourself a free download. Do not sign up with Shaw Academy. It's a scam. Thanks, Julius. You can... I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. But most of what you can do on free software. Obviously, it really helps to have a good microphone, and it helps to have a good audio interface. I would start with a good microphone, and I would not be spending anything under $200. Get a Rode, R-O-D-E. They're made in Australia. And they're bloody good mics. You can stick a Rode in front of a guitar, and it's beautiful. You can stick it in front of a voice and whisper into it. It's fantastic. Great mic. Really, really cost-effective. Bloody good mic. Somebody else should answer his question, because
I wanted to say it's more about... the skill than about the gear, because I've already got a full version of Cubase.
All right, cool.
So it doesn't.
Get one of those master classes.
Okay.
And make sure they use a Neve desk, and make sure they had something to do with Van Halen. Everything is about Van Halen. Does anybody else want to Udemy courses. Yeah, Jim and Kerry, I see your hands.
Hey, I just had a question. I've only been doing, I've been playing music since the 80s, but I've only been doing electronic music for like 3 years. Excuse me. So my stuff is kind of it's not the most expensive stuff. Like I have a mini brute.
No, microbrute.
Yeah, sorry, I have a microbrute.
Great synth.
And I love it. And but my thing is when I go to write a sequence, it's so boring. It's either just an octave bounce, boom, boom, boom. But then I downloaded some and they were different. And sequences. They sound, yeah, I downloaded some sequences and they were good, but I don't want to do that because I feel like I'm stealing. So if anybody has a way to come up with interesting sequences.
I have an interesting way. So with your sequences, can you type in a numeric value or do you have to twiddle a knob?
You push the key.
Okay.
And then if you want a space or a rest, you have to hit the tap button again. So it's like, it gets a, because I'm not a music reader.
All right.
So I don't really, yeah, right.
All right. Just before I get to that, and remind me, I'm going to say minor pentatonic. Alex, did I cut you off? Your hand's still up. Did we?
No, I wanted to answer what Jim said.
Go.
Yeah, I think one way, if you're like don't know where to start, is to either dice the first note, then try to complete it, or to go completely against your intuition and then try to make it work, like make something random and then sculpt everything off that doesn't fit. And I think that are two great ways to make something special. I had a third one, but I forgot.
Great idea. If I may, so can you record it by hitting the keys, like putting it into a loop and going boink, 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 boink? You can't do that? Okay. The trick is the minor pentatonic scale, and that's all the black notes on a keyboard. All the black notes. And the cool thing about the black notes is that you can use any of them to be like the bass, dong, 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 and it's still going to sound cool over it. With a sequence, it is basically a bass line. So, using, how many steps do you have in your sequences?
It's got 64, but
wow.
Yeah, right. You can do 64 notes, but I rarely use more than 16,
Great.
15.
Excellent. Syncopation is awesome. And if your little sequence doesn't always have to hit the beat, and a trick is the third beat, don't touch it. Turn it off. So you might go dunk, 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 ka-ticka dunk, 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 ka-ticka dunk, 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 ka-ticka dunk, like that. And that's all you need. Like, you know, because if you can do all this shit and then you do all this shit, you ended up with a whole bunch of shit. You might not really want that. Go through, turn heaps of bits off and say, what can I, if I have 5 notes, dunk, 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 da-dunk, dunk, 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 da-dunk, what can I do in one bar with 5 notes?
Right. And that extra step, that empty step, you can almost do a polyrhythm because they won't quite link up.
Yeah. Yeah. And polyrhythms are really great ways for, and I find polyrhythms are great if you have something else that's holding everything down, like a bass line, like even if it's a dung 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 dung, whatever it is, just holding everything down. And then if there is a polyrhythm constantly rolling over and notching off by 1 each time, you're going to end up with something really interesting.
I'm going to try that. That sounds like fun.
Also, do things like, if you can, blindfold yourself. And if you
I do it all the time.
Okay. Thank you. And when you're actually typing in a note, you might go type, type, rest, type, type, rest, type, type, rest, or whatever. Fuck around. Just play around with it. Alex, I see your blue hand.
Yes, I was going to say another trick of making interesting sequences is to keep it really short. So you have to really focus about what you said with 5 notes, but you can make it a 1 bar. Then try to just move things around in that 1 bar until you have something that's interesting. And one other trick that doesn't apply to you is use a really bad sequencer. So you mess it up and then the sequence will be interesting because it wasn't what you were planning to do. That that's also one thing that people do.
That's great. I don't want to cut you off. Were you done?
Yeah, I was.
I want to build on that. Use 5 notes, as I was saying before, but actually make the sequence itself only 5 notes long. And then only use 3 notes inside that. So it's the sequence length is 5/16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Use 3 notes. Da-da-da-dun, 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 da-da-da-dun. That wasn't it. But if I was in Helmet, I could play that, but I can't. So thank you for everybody who got the Helmet reference. Experiment and fuck around as much as you can. Like, you know what, like what Alex was saying, if there's any way you can do stuff wrong, do it. Because wrong's good.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, I'm going to try that. Thank you.
Do you have a way of recording stuff?
Yeah.
We run it into the computer with Ableton.
Okay.
We can. I also have a digital 12-track that's about 20 years old.
Awesome. Because one other thing you could do is, like, you could record a guitar line. You play guitar?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, if you played a guitar line and it goes for a bar, but you only use 7/16 of that bar, and then you loop that.
Okay.
So that's always swirling around. Rob, I see.
Yeah, because that's a lot. Because I'm not a keyboard player at all.
But you're doing good.
But I fake it pretty good.
That's
what I learned in 30 years is how to fake stuff.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Rob, I see your hand.
Yeah, depends on the genre that you're looking for, I guess. But most of the time I've got a couple of simple rules, and you want to break the monotony. You don't want to have the same loop going for too long. You want to have multiple parts, and there's no reason why you can't, just mix in the different parts as you go. If you want to change to a bridge or do some kind of fill to break the monotony up, and if you're using a DAW or something like that, you can go in and record however many bars you want, and then go in and just modify every other bar, and just like Carl said, change it up a little bit because it keeps the brain interested. Unless you're making techno and you just want to make everything just flat out ballistic, bump, 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 bump. But I would suggest that you want to make things interesting and intelligent and come from you. Like, what makes you happy when you listen to each bar, and what would you want to hear in the next bar? And it's almost like listening to your favorite musician and saying, what makes their music appealing to me? How do I create a composition that will make me smile, inside? And I think that's the art of creativity, is producing something that you're happy with, however long it takes, and putting in that variation that kind of is characteristic of you. And I play bass, but I don't play guitar. I've got an acoustic guitar with a pickup on it, and I like to pretend with the guitar as well, but I do really weird shit. I pluck notes and screw up, my finger positions and everything. And I take that sound and I run it through a little loop bar. I use the Zoom, I use the K-oscillator to make variations of it. And I do it different every time. Whenever I create tracks, I like to make something that's similar in the previous 4 bars, but not identical. There's always something different happening. And with that 12 track you're talking about, that's gold. I mean, you want to create different variations, dump all those variations onto separate tracks. And then if you've got a real basic mixer where you can slide between those different tracks or channels and create something on the fly that kind of makes you smile inside, that I think that would be a good start as well.
That is a brilliant idea, to actually just jam onto track 1. And then I'm going to jam again onto track 2. And then you go back and you play that digital recording like it's an instrument. That's fantastic. Rob, that's brilliant. I love that.
Well, I see that's how you do stuff live. I mean, I've seen you use your magical mixy system, you know, the fancy up and downs, and you'll go through different channels and you'll use different parts at different times and build their levels and drop them down to effectively change the mood, but it's still the same sound, which is great.
Yes, thank you. I'm still figuring out how to do it. Yeah, but no, that's great. And I think improvisation is really important. And if I can just talk about me for a moment, I don't want to talk about me actually. So this gig I did with the wife, they had a band playing, and they were a jazz band, and they were an improvisational jazz band, and they were a 4-piece, and they were terrifying. Oh my God. Okay, I love good jazz. I am a sucker for good jazz. And these guys were great. And they would just go. And they would start with the littlest, tiniest things. Oh, here's Tanner. They'd start with these tiny little ideas, tiny things, and then they would build. And it was like the sax player might put something down, and the bass player would pick it up. And then the drummer would pick that thing up, and then the vocalist would come in and everyone would stop. And then it was this conversation. And it's such an important thing to be able to play and to be able to improvise and explore. That's all I wanted to say. Vince, you're awfully quiet.
Yeah, I am quiet today. It's my 18th wedding anniversary today.
Happy anniversary?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Oh, good.
I'm also a little stoned.
Because you look like sort of like this Sith boxer. Because I keep looking at you and I go, in the blue corner.
Yeah. I woke up late today and didn't bother taking a shower, so I threw on a hoodie and just got in front of the camera.
Excellent. That's my life. You are more rock than any of us. I wanted to ask you about, because you're doing some really cool projects and stuff. If you feel like having a chat about it, that's fine either. And if not, just sit back and relax.
Well, yeah. What do you want me to talk about?
Well, I really like that you've thrown out there to kind of make something really cool happen. And you got that vocalist happening, and you're working on something with a team of people. In this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just the one guy working on it right now, and me. But yeah, I threw it out there. There's a Facebook group for DistroKid collaborations, and that's where I found somebody to work with. He wanted to know if I'd want to do something with him, and I was like, yeah, what do you want to do? He was like, I don't know, make me a beat or something, and I'll throw some vocals on it. So I threw something together, and I was going to give him an old project that I'd been working on and just change it, and then something that wasn't released yet. And I ended up building a whole new track for him because and that's how it ended up working.
I think that's great. I encourage everyone here to do a similar thing. I've started doing some fun things with Walt. I just got to say, Vince, you've got a real Gandalf vibe going on today. I mean,
it's funny because you're not the first person that says that to me.
Well, it's great because I'm seeing Rob's swords. He's got to have Sting back there.
No, what's funny about that is he said something about can he have more knives, and I've got one down my neck and one in each pocket.
Wow.
You asked if he could have more knives, and I'm like, well, I would, but like, I don't right now.
I think the halfling weed has slowed your mind. Lord of the Rings.
Maybe. I don't know.
Lord of the Rings reference, and a big fuck you to Walt, who has actually got a goddamn pinball machine. Yeah, it is a very Lord of the Rings kind of day. It's funny because yesterday me and the wife started watching Lord of the Rings. Can I talk about Lord of the Rings for a minute? So I saw this really fascinating, and this ties into the emotion thing. Vince, feel free to interrupt me because I just interrupted you, Gandalf. really amazing thing about Howard Shore, who did the music for Lord of the Rings, and how he merged the theme of Gondar and Rohan, and how he treats them in such a way to represent the brokenness of the kingdoms and the kingdoms' needs to rebuild themselves musically, and how he brings them together. And the moment they come together is when Theoden, who's my favorite king ever, is riding with the Rohirrim in the final battle of Gondar, and they come to the rescue. And when Theoden plays his horn and it plays a perfect fifth, because Gondar's theme starts with a perfect fifth, Rohan's theme starts with a minor third. And each step they come closer, Rohan then goes to the major fourth, and then Theoden plays the major fifth. And then the two merge. Fantastic! And the whole concept of musicality and everything being this elaborate puzzle put together and manipulated to give this insane emotional payoff is brilliant. Really mind-blowing stuff. I'm digressing right now. Walt's getting a Lord of the Rings thing. Vince is turning into Gandalf. Do I hear anything from the hobbits?
Oh, just Gandalf.
Taking breakfast?
It's not time for second breakfast yet.
I'm just about to have 11sies. Oh, we are such nerds. So, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I've got another project I'm working on right now. A couple of them. Darkness Calling is they do an internet radio show, and they also promote new dark music stuff. And they do a lot of charity work for the Trevor Project. And for Halloween, they're doing another compilation that they're releasing a bunch of stuff for that I'm going to put something in for.
Good on you.
I haven't done it yet, but the deadline's October 3rd, so I've got a little while. I just found out about a week ago.
Could you put a link to that in either the chat and or the Discord? Angelspit's Discord?
I can probably put it in the Discord. I got a hard time dealing with the chat on this thing because I use Zoom on my phone.
That's fine. Note for later. But please go on, I interrupted you.
And I've got another, I can't believe I didn't think of it sooner, but there is a ton of public poetry available on the internet. You're often talk about lyrical inspiration. I'm going to probably almost entirely rip off part of that and throw a little bit of my own stuff in it. And I've got an EP coming probably around the same time as the Darkness Calling project.
Excellent.
Hopefully a little soon, but I'm going to try to get it out close to the same time.
Rob, I see your hand. I just want to pick up on Vince for 1 second. Something really great to do about lyrics is, because writing lyrics is hard, and if you find lyrics writing easy, I hate you, is when you have a theme of what you're trying to hit with the lyrics, research it. Go onto YouTube and find somebody who speaks about this topic and just sit there and write based on what that person is talking about. It might be overcoming a broken heart, or it might be political issues, or it might be space and time, whatever it is. Just listen to these people and saturate it into your lyrics. I have nothing else to say. Rob, Vince, if you have nothing else to say, I'd love to hear from Rob because I see his blue hand. That's called the Blue Hand of Saruman.
Very cool. Yeah, the competitions that everyone hosts, doesn't matter whether on Discord or YouTube or whatever the case may be. There's always some competition on with a prize at the end, and they give a short deadline, and they'll generally give you a bunch of material to work with. And I love those challenges because I never used to take the time out to create enough, and I'm now that I'm getting old and haggard, I'm taking more opportunity, and I've got more money to actually satisfy my creativity. And every now and then I'll go in for one of those competitions just to push myself and say, what can I create with this other material, these samples that somebody's given me, or this MIDI track or whatever? how do I make this my own? How do I generate it and set a timeline so I can submit it in time, and then get that feedback on, how I compare, and listen to everyone else's tracks as well, and kind of use those as learning points. As like, oh wow, I could have done it that way. How did he do that, or she do that? And I'm finding that those little competitions are really a good driver to help an amateur like me kind of stretch myself. And also the point that you made about the music crescendo for Lord of the Rings and having a theme, I think that's really important, because if you were to try to make music from scratch in a vacuum without lyrics, you're not really getting to a point in your song or your production. And it may be that the video story is what's driving your lyrics, which is what's driving your rhythm, or it's the rhythm is driving the video and the video is driving the lyrics. When I look at I do a lot of lyrics for other musicians who are more talented than me, but they can't write lyrics. So I will listen to their tracks over and over again. I'll write down simple ideas. I'll write down the feelings, and then I'll start to write down the style, like in the style of Rage Against the Machine or in the style of Faith No More. And then I'll start writing down the lyrics. I'll send those back, bounce them off the artist, and say, oh yeah, I get that. It's what I feel from your style of music and your creativity. And what that does is it gets me in a mood, listening to those progressions. I then write the lyrics, and then I visualize the video of what that should look like, and I send that back to them. Alternatively, it might be just a simple melody, and it's all about a story, like Carl said. You've got this story you want to tell, and you'll lay out the lyrics, and it'll take you time to work out the melody and the video that goes with it. That process, I find, is a lot more difficult.
There's a lot there I want to yes, 1,000 times yes. Tanner, did you want to talk about lyrics? Because if not, I want you to hold the thought. What did you want to talk about, babe?
Oh, I wanted to ask, what was everyone's favorite instrument that they're using right now? Because I write lyrics in two different ways. I write them in one way where when I barely wake up, I have stuff that I'm pissed off about, like raps and rhymes, but I secretly rap, but no one knows. All my songs are raps first before I even sing them. So I wake up, being pissed off about something. And then the other way is I make music, I'm just playing freehand, like most people, and then I will get like a couple of words in my head, like fuck you, and I'm like, I like that. And I'm writing that down. But I want to know, what do you guys use for lyrics, like for instrumental and lyrics together, or do you separate them? There we go.
That's a huge one, and I'd love to pick up on that. Okay, Eric and Julius, I see, and Alex, I see your hands up. If you want to answer that correctly, please jump on in.
I was more going to go off just with lyrics in general than an answer to that.
Okay, I want to answer that. Increasingly, I do lyrics first. And if I write a song and I get all the way through that song, it's like, okay, now I've got to come up with a chorus. I never can. I can never do the song justice. In fact, it's sort of partly what Rob's saying, is that I'll start with a rudimentary idea, and even two notes can tell you what's going on. Two notes can set dung dung. Two notes can set up the beginnings of a story or an emotion, and then I will just explore what is that emotion about. And in my case, it's usually I'm very angry. But I'll try and explore, am I running and I'm angry, or am I floating on a cloud and being angry? Like, where is the anger? What's this about? Da-da-da-da-da. And then expand from there. And the music seems to, if I start with lyrics, based on a real simple musical idea, the track is always so much stronger. maybe it's just me. I don't know. But if I can, no, I'll circle back later. If anybody else wants to jump in on lyrics, the floor's yours.
I was gonna say, one of the easiest ways I think, and when I went to college, I was a little bit of media communication. My English, I was a major in English in college, so writing's always been something I had a strong interest in. There's something you can do too to help just get your ideas flowing in free form writing, even if it's not lyrical for the song. If you just start writing an idea and just don't stop yourself and don't think of anything, just sit there and just write what you want to write or talk about, you'll get a lot of good ideas flowing, even if you're like have a writer's block or you're stuck. And then you can take those ideas and form them into a song with what you're working on. Another strong point is I always suggest having a thesaurus open, whether it's on the computer or a book next to you, because a lot of times if you're trying to say something and you're using like the word good, and everybody uses the word good, and you're trying to get a point across, you can just easily look that up in a thesaurus and find a surplus of words you can maybe put in for that. It also helps. There's also a website called Rhyme Zone, or any other kind of rhyming website you can go to. So if you really like a line you wrote and it's ending in something, you just go into like a website like that, type in the word you're looking to rhyme it with, and you'll get like a plethora of words coming up that will help you rhyme and put stuff together and scheme. That's it.
Excellent. I just want to really quickly shout out to Grim.
I will go next, if I may.
Yep.
I find it very hard to write lyrics, and writing lyrics is never the first thing I do when I write a song. Before I compose the instrumental, I have a general idea of the emotion I want to transport, and afterwards come the lyrics. And I find it so hard to tailor lyrics to a certain rhythm or to a certain instrumental. And I'm a writer as well, and I have a degree in creative writing, and I must agree a lot with Eric that freeform writing is the best form to get ideas and to clear your mind and to work against writer's block. And there was something else I wanted to say. It just molten away in the heat. Give me a second. Maybe it comes back. Nope. Sorry.
Just let us know when it comes back to you. Alex, what do you got?
Yes, like most people, I also struggle with lyrics, but I think it's much more easier for me if there's already a melody and a full song where I can project on, just simply because my lyrics don't feel as naked. Like if they're just on the paper, it feels like they aren't as strong as if I can sing them in my head already. And what I do is I have the song looped on repeat forever, and if I have immediate ideas, I write them down immediately. And if I don't, I just keep it playing and do other things. If I have that, I go back to the computer or back to my phone and just write everything down, and then later I rearrange things and swap things out and cross things out, and that's my my process.
All right, that's solid. Thank you. Before I throw it back to you, Julius, I want to put a shout out to Grim Reaper Aaron, who's saying some great things in the. Also, Adam, as usual, great input from Adam, and also Kitty. Thank you. So if you're here, keep the Twitch open because some of the comments are really, really relevant. Julius, what do you got? And then I'm putting my hand up.
Just a thought. I believe to write good lyrics, you kind of need to be like a lyric poet, and it's the job of a lyric poet to find the right words, the words that have the most impact. And yeah, I know it's super difficult, especially when writing lyrics to a song. And yeah, but I think that's what it takes to write good lyrics. That's it.
I thoroughly agree. I just wanted to touch something I think Rob was talking about. one thing I'm really enjoying, this is coming back to you doing something improvised. Something I'm really enjoying about the improvised sessions that I'm doing is that I will have an idea that looks like that. Wow, you can't really even see it because it looks like a blank piece of paper. Anyway, a really, really simple idea, and to see how much you can pull out of it and how many different inflections of emotion you can project onto this thing. And it's a very good exercise. And I'm doing this stuff live at a set time because I am forced, therefore, to do it. Because if I don't do it live at a certain time, I'm not going to do it. And I am forced to get my shit together. So one thing is that, we've got a Discord and everybody's got some way of chatting now. Put out a call and say, I want to do lyric writing with someone. I want to write lyrics with someone. And see who'll answer. And the person doesn't even need to be a musician. Some really strong ideas can come and happen and come at building stuff. I always find it's great to have something that you are building towards. Like, in this song, I want to leave the person with the idea that they can smell, the leaves of autumn, how they have that musty smell, the dead sort of musty smell, but it's beautiful, but it's kind of a bit haunting. I want them to smell that. And I want them to feel like they are in a cabin in the woods and something terrible has happened. But you don't know what has happened, but something is about to happen. And that's where the song ends. If you work towards something, and verse 1 might set up something, verse 2 might set up something else, and verse 3 might just bring it into the abyss. And I always go back to my favorite opening lyric, which is by a band called Tex Perkins and the Cruel Sea, and the lyric is, with bloodshot eyes and bleeding hands, I put my best suit in the cleaners again. Horse came second, just like I knew it was, overflowing ashtrays, yeah. You better get a lawyer, son. You better get a real good one. You better get a lawyer, son, to get you out of this one. Because from those lyrics, you can tell someone had a crazy night, everything went wrong, they blacked out probably, and something bad happens, and now they need a lawyer. It sets it up perfectly. Rob, I see your hand go.
Yeah, I'm always inspired by bands that get together totally randomly, and artists that work together when they were never meant to. If you'd never plan it that way. And I'll give you an example. One of the best rock bands that came out of Australia in the last couple of decades was called In Excess. And Michael Hutchence was never a musician, never a vocalist, never trained, never even touched an instrument in his life, actually hated being out in front of the public, but he was a poet. And Andrew Farris was the musician. He was the one who pulled the lyrics together. And he was actually a guitarist, but you never saw him playing guitar in Excess because he couldn't find a he couldn't find a keyboard player that he liked to fit the genre of music. So he ended up playing keyboards and they filled out the rest of the band. But Michael Hutchence was never a willing musician. And so it happened that they made this chemistry by putting these odd sorts together. And it was Michael's lyrics that Andrew built upon to make such brilliant albums for such a long time.
Yeah. The power of working with someone. And I've started doing more stuff with, like I've mentioned this with Miss Ballistic and with Walt, and we're doing these Zoom creation sessions, and they're like therapy to me. Because I haven't worked with people in like 10 years. It's great. So, actually, that could be a really fun, weird thing to do is Jim and Kerry, get some people to send you some long, weird thing. And then send it to you, and you put each of them on one of the tracks of your digital recorder, and you play them back using the sliders. And on that, if there's anything in the those improvisation things I'm doing with Ice Planet 9000, use them, sample them, use them, go for it. There's high quality recordings for high quality MP3s in the on the Patreon. Use them. If they inspire lyrics, if you want to sample them, go for it.
Thank you. Oh wow.
Yeah. Fuck that shit up. And obviously the objective is they are merely a stepping stone or a cornerstone for you to build your house. That's the objective here. Rob, I see your hand's still up.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
You need more knives, Rob.
Yeah, you don't see all the good knives. I don't have any Lord of the Rings knives because those are not real. I've only got real ones. That's sorry about that.
Fair enough. I actually went to the exhibition in Wellington, and it's bloody amazing. It was amazing. Every piece of orc armor, they didn't mass produce them. Every piece of armor was built separately. And there's 12 different tribes of orc, and each one is represented. One's more leather, one's more steel, one's more wood. They're all represented. Like, the building quality, it's insane. I'm reading people's stuff. Great. So does anybody... does anybody have another question, or do they want to add to anything? Or, yeah, Jim and Kerry, I see your hands. Hold on, Alex, I'm just going to throw to these guys first.
Well, I'm not, excuse me, I'm not a poet or anything, but when I write and I can't really come up with lyrics that, if I go, I'm going to write a song about this, it comes out just corny. But when I come up with a chord progression, I'll generally hear like the backup singers singing vowel sounds, you know, oohs and ahs and stuff. And after you play that a few times, maybe a word comes to you or a phrase. Like, for instance, I heard, and this is kind of strange reference, but Billy Joel, that's enough. Billy Joel was talking about the song Honesty, you know, honesty.
It's such a lonely word, yeah.
Well, he said that started out as sodomy, right? Don't ask me. I guess sodomy wouldn't sell on the FM radio.
And it's not such a lonely word, but
it is such a lonely word. But yeah, anyway, so I'll hear like backup singers, generally speaking, and I'll start like, that'll be like the foundation of the line, and then I'll try and like throw another musical part in there, like for a chorus or a pre-chorus that's just almost completely different, and then do the same thing with that, you know. Generally, I hate to bring it back to this, it'll take a little bit of token, but anyway. But it's a good way to come up with, at least it'll give you a sort of a melody and a vowel sound to follow. Because if it's like ooh and a ah, you know, it might be look at my pa, you know, or whatever. I don't know. I'm no poet. But it'll turn into something if you grow it.
That's excellent. Keep going if you're going, because I want to jump in. That's such a good, a really strong idea for writing lyrics as well, is stand in front of the mic and go and speak a language. Speak a weird language. A lot of people do it, and it yields great results. And words and stuff, like, it's easier to come up with something based on something than it is to come up with something based on nothing. Put the headphones on, do a couple of takes, see what happens. Alex, I see your hand.
Yeah, back to the lyrics. Just shortly, I started to finish my lyrics even if I don't like them, and I think that was something really positive for me, because it's like I have it out of my system, and even if it's not great, I just can put it in a folder and forget about it. And my actual question is, how important do you think is the consistency in style? Because I originally wanted to have like a certain feeling or style, but I feel it's keeping me from actually finishing songs, because I'm so obsessed with having a meta-narrative that I don't write the actual song. Would it be okay to just have an album that's like has many different soundscapes or like feelings, or was my original idea, right? Having like a consistent style. And how do I find my consistent style?
You find your consistent style by keep going, and don't let a concept hold you back from doing what you want to do. So you got to be truthful to yourself. Like if remember, man, the concept is it helps you open the door and walk into the room. And when you get to the room, there's a whole heap of new doors. Which door will I take? This wasn't involved in my original concept. Open the door that you want. And if that door doesn't work, try another one. Once the whole album goes into the mix stage and the production stage, most likely coherency will start bringing it together. But right now, don't worry about it. Just keep doing it. See, your own personal style is like your own personal accent and your own personal sense of humor. It's there. You just can't hear it because it's yours. Everybody has an accent and everybody has a sense of humor. And that is intrinsically going to come out in your music through your choices of notes and your choices of sounds and your choices of beats and the speeds of your music. Just keep pushing, keep honing. I think Julius is next.
Just very briefly. I agree with Carl 100%. Same advice to you, Alex. It's super crucial to just get into action, to say in German, ins Tun kommen. That's the most important thing.
What does ins Tun kommen mean?
To get into action.
All right. I love it. Thank you very much. Rob, I see your hand.
Yeah, I have no idea how everyone in the rest of the world does their idea development, but I'm not sure if I'm unique or not, but when I listen to music or create some music, I'll push it out onto Google Drive, and then when I've got to jump in the car and go somewhere, I'll stream it over Bluetooth from my phone through the stereo in the car, and I'll listen to that track, as many times as it takes me to get from A to B. I'll just keep looping it over and over, and as I'm playing it, I'll be singing to it, singing out the lyrics that I've just written, and I keep all my lyrics on my phone. You go to notes and just type all the lyrics out. I sing those lyrics out in the car. I project my voice to the windscreen so I'm loud. I can hear a full breath of audio coming out of myself. And I'll record that when I'm comfortable with the sound of it, because I don't want to forget what I did. And maybe 2 days later, I'll go do the same thing again, but I will listen to a different style of music first. And then I'll go through that track and I'll find myself changing my tone and the way that I sing. Maybe it's an octave higher. And I might find that some parts of the song resonate better in a higher octave with a different tonality using one voice that I have. And then other parts of the song sound better with a different tonality or a different octave or a different voice. And so when I come back to the studio, I'll work through recording all of those, and generally it won't be one voice all the way through the whole track. I'll end up doing 2 different voices through the whole track, and maybe one of those voices I go and fuck around with a vocoder or effects or something like that. But that's how I generally capture it. There's not a lot of creativity for vocals that happens with me sitting in the studio. It's always outside and it hits me, and I'll start singing to it, and then I'll get it down, make it happen.
There were some great, really excellent ideas there. Thank you, Rob. I will encourage everyone to take something you've heard today and try it, because there's been so many different ways to achieve the same thing. Take something you've heard and try that idea, because keeping, it's funny, Alex, you're talking about finding your style. With finding your style, once you find your style, quite often with people who make music, because of the way our heads are, there comes process. And the problem with process is there then becomes a rut. and finding out of a rut, or always keeping out for where process begins to rule the creative outcome, I personally think is really dangerous. And it is something that I am always fighting against, because my brain critically needs process. I have to have process. But I am constantly fighting that process. And I have a feeling quite a few of us are in the same situation. So always, you remember that music's fun. And music is, it's like watching a car race. People want to see accidents. And there's one thing even better than seeing an accident, a car just smash itself into bitch, is seeing the driver get out, then get in another car and win the race. And apply that to every fucking track you write, every step in your career. Remember that. And this is your career now. You know, you're making money of it, doesn't matter. That's money is irrelevant. For the benefit of you, your society, and your tribe, this is your career. And remember that it's got to be passionate, maybe not exciting. Not everybody wants exciting music. Whatever it is you're doing, it's got to hit the mark. And in order for you to hit the mark, it's got to hit the mark in here. And if it's not fun to you, if it's not exciting and new to you, if it's not risky, it's not going to be risky to the audience, and the audience want risk. And releasing something going, I don't know if people are going to like this, I don't know if I like this, but I know it's good. It feels risky. I'm going to get in trouble for this. If you release something with the thought in your head of going, I'm going to get in trouble for this, you've released a hit. Because that edge, that desire to make people feel like they are a 14-year-old and they're doing something naughty, that's what you want to do. Does anybody else have something they want to throw in? Because all of this talk of 11sies is making me hungry. Rob, go. I mean, Rob, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm working on, I don't know, maybe 5 different things at once, and this is normal. One's at the beginning, one's almost at the end with video and almost everything finished. I think 3 out of the 5 are collabs. I like to collaborate with Aussie artists back in Australia who are struggling and wanting to find their way. And I find that that's my wife standing there staring at me. I'm almost done, yeah. They're all waving. She wants to garden. She's saying something about caterpillars. Yeah, I'm finding that balancing my time is really difficult, and finding time to create, compose, to do lyrics, to do vocals, to do keyboards. I like to own the whole process, to mix and master. I'm an amateur in all of it. Of some things I've done for 20 years, some things I've only done for 2 years. And for me, it's always a learning experience. But one of the things I'm going to take home from today's session is I actually ran into a guy who's got his entire mixing and mastering set up in a rented apartment in Miami. And he offered for me to send him my stuff. So I don't know what he's going to charge me, but I'm going to take Carl's advice and try and offload some of that activity because it's using up too much time. And I'm probably going to learn a lot faster by sitting with him and letting him talk me through what he's doing. So that's what I'm going to take out of this.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Love to the wife and the gardening. Before we went live, Rob and I were talking about gardening because we're both crazy gardeners. Maybe it's an Australian thing, I don't know. Does anybody else have something they want to throw in? La 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 la. Yeah.
Precious.
Yes. Yes. Fucking Lord of the Rings. What is it?
Destroy the One Ring. We must destroy it.
There it is. Is that actually a ring, Vince? It is?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually the what is it called?
The
I
one.
can't even remember what the model is, but it's a replica of the One Ring.
Wow.
With a chrome finish on it. So it's what's funny about it is that the writing on it actually shows up better in firelight.
Get out of here.
No.
Wow.
If you light it with flame, you can see the writing better than you can
in
regular lighting.
That's really interesting to think.
That's how I figured out which direction the writing's supposed to go before I put it on.
Yeah. It's interesting how people are walking around with a ring on their finger.
Yeah, that's how I figure out which direction the writing goes.
All right. With that, because like that black tongue is the most evil thing of all evilness that could be conceived, and it's a ring now. But that's great. Yeah, I'm just on. I've got to watch Lord of the Rings again. What the hell's going on? I just don't know. Anyone else? Anything? And watch the making of. It'll blow your mind, especially what they did with audio. How they were like dropping massive blocks of concrete to try and accurately get the sound of like what a catapult would sound like being thrust into Gondar. Do it. It's fascinating shit. Anyone? Because if no one else is going to jump in at this point, either I'm going to go on a rant or we're going to go have 11sies.
How many hours a week do you spend doing this sort of shit, Carl?
Music or Lord of the Rings?
Music.
I get up at 4:30 every morning. I start working for 5:30ish, and I hammer it until maybe 10. I try and do that every day. It usually ends up being 3 days a week, and then everything else only because my mind is fresh to write music in the morning. That's how my brain is. And throughout the day at random times when God whispers into my ear, or the aliens, or the devil, or Mordor, I don't know, and I write that shit down, da-da-da-da-da. But the rest of the time is spent either doing other work, which is maybe about 10% of my time, or admin and just pushing it through. And that's non-creative. That's admin. That is boring record label stuff. And it's funny what you said about like writing lyrics. Like I can't sit in front of my computer. I have to get my little, either a notepad or my computer thingy, walk away, tablet, whatever the fuck, and go and sit somewhere else and do it. And I'm going to start going out for coffees again. I think it's safe to again, and start writing lyrics. It's like I'm not leaving this cafe until I finish a draft of lyrics. But I would spend maybe 20 hours a week, maybe 40. When I go into crunch time with an album, it will go up to 60 hours a week. And I'm working on Angelspit's 10th album now and working at producing that thing, so that's ramping up to 40 hours. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
That's extreme. I spend maybe a couple of hours a week. I'm interested to know about Julius. How many hours a week did you spend on your latest stuff?
It differs in what phase of music writing I am. When it's a good phase, when into writing, it's probably like let me guess, I think 10 hours a week, and mostly on the weekends. Yeah.
That's really strong. You know, Rob, what about you? How much time do you spend?
Assuming I'm the only Rob here, I'll do little spurts. So I could be sitting in bed writing lyrics, or I could be out on the road. I mean, lately I've been going to Miami and back, and that's a 4-hour trip each way. So I'll spend a lot of that drive time working on lyrics and working on content. And I use my phone. I've got a sequencer and recorder on my phone that I use all the time. So I find weird sounds and shit out in the world, and I'll start recording that stuff during the day. It'll only take me 5 minutes to record it, and then when I've got quiet time, I'll sit down in the evening and I'll create some tracks out of it on my phone. And I've actually pushed stuff out from my phone. I've never even touched the computer. Haven't used the synth at all. It's just all been recordings. So, but normally I would spend 2 to 3 hours a week helping an artist with real time. I'll work with them on Zoom, and I'll go through their material. I'll work it in real time and talk them through vocal technique, how to correct certain things, how to fix their setup at home so they record better and give me better quality tracks. And then when I do the lyrics and audio, I'd normally get that done within 2 or 3 hours, and I'm finished. I don't dwell on it more than that. I push that back out to the artist and say, you know, it's all yours now, buddy. I've helped you out with the gaps that you needed help with. It's all over to you to do the rest. So I don't spend a lot of time creating my own stuff. It's mostly helping others. And I would say it's a maximum 3-4 hours a week, because I have a full-time career as an engineer, so that's a whole different ballgame.
Cool. What are you thinking, Julius?
Just for something completely different, if we are done with the topic, I would like to have something else. I got the honor to recently do the sound design for a friend of mine for a video game he's developing, and I didn't know anything about it. I just I just designed the sounds and processed them to my liking and what I thought was doing justice to the video game. And I wanted to ask if anybody here in the round has ever done sound designing for video games and music scores for video games as well. I know you did, Carl. Do you have any advice on this?
Usually
technical advice. Sorry. Technical advice.
Yeah. So parts need to fit on top of each other, and the technology's changed a lot since I've done it. Rob, do you have run it? If you got.
Yeah.
Go.
The technology is changing right now. I'm working in Unreal 5 at work, and there's a big change from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5 in terms of how they manage the soundtracks and the polyphony. And they've just introduced their own analog style synthesizer model as a plugin to Unreal 5 that you can use. And the whole sequencing of effects and patterns and how they're able to overlay and trigger sounds has changed drastically. So it's worth doing some YouTube workshops, looking at how Unreal 5 now manages their audio and sound. And you also want to look at the file format types that work best with Unity, because they're always looking for fairly lightweight audio tracks. And it depends on the genre of the game, but obviously sound design for sound effects is very different from doing, theme music and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure what you're working on, but sound effects for games is one thing. Audio backing tracks and ambience is quite different. Over.
Alex, thank you, Rob. Alex, what you got?
I don't have any experience, but I think advice that I need to hear in such situations is to just do it. Just do what seems cool at the moment. And if there are any problems, try to fix them. Don't overthink it. Just start working and then see where the problems lie.
Yeah. Rob, did you want to add something?
Yeah, if you're going to get serious about it, start building a library. And you can publish the libraries online, and other developers will start buying that shit up. So you can make it as generic as you like, so long as your license agreement that you push to your customers, they're okay with that being not exclusive, then you can start to generate a lot of stuff. I've learned a lot of sound design from a game industry engineer here in Orlando, and he's taught me how to build this stuff out. And I don't remember the tools off the top of my head. I haven't bought the tool yet, but it's very popular. I'll post it under Carl's stuff. There is a library tool for sound effects for games. So you can quickly meta tag the sound effect. And if I'm looking for a dunk sound, and it's a wooden dunk sound, then you're able to search for it and find 150 wooden dunk sounds. Getting your sound effects cataloged correctly so they're findable by the game producers is absolutely crucial. I'll post the link shortly. Over.
Yeah, if I could just jump in, yes. Because you're going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of little tiny dunks and bloops and splits and splaps and zips that you need to be going through and finding. It's also really important that stuff's going to sit on top of other stuff. That you might say everything in level 1 is in the key of C minor. So if two parts start playing over each other and the drone's going to be in C and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, everything is going to harmonically match. Then level 2 might be in E flat or E or A or something, I don't know. Making sure that everything is going to be where it's supposed to be. Yeah, and like what Rob was talking about, I have no idea where they're at with MIDI files, because back in the days I was doing it, here's a 16-bar loop it. It's one track, loop it. Here's a 30-second ambient sound atmos of the city, loop it. Now here's the sound effect of people walking, da-da-da-da-da-da. Also, EQing is really important as well, because remember, I don't know how much power they have over EQing, but if you give them the files with half the work done, so that here's people footsteps walking, you don't really need a lot of lows in that. You're going to need more high-end definition and sort of not really even anything in the mids, because there's going to be a lot of other action happening in the mids. It's important to be delivering elements that have the frequencies in the elements that are needed, not the stuff that's not needed. Yeah. Alex, go.
Sorry, I forgot to put your hand down.
Oh. Rob, go.
Yeah, also the engines take care of audio spatialization now a lot better than they ever did before. So if you've heard of Atmos, which is like 14.1 channels of audio, there are a lot of musicians now who only create in Atmos because they're rich fuckers and they can afford all the rendering equipment, which is like $30,000 for a server. And they'll only do it in Pro Tools or whatever, because that's the only company that Sony caters for, bastards they are.
Fuck them.
Yep. So there's a lot of people developing content ready for spatialization, but the game engines themselves are actually doing a lot more for free than ever before. So using a game engine to do your audio spatialization as you're moving through a 3D environment with all sound sources are basically in a 3D cloud. They're a point source emitter. You can set up your plates and your reverb and everything based on the cave or the forest, the wet forest that you're in, and it'll automatically process that shit out for you. So you don't actually have to do much with the sound effects. The environment, the 3D environment, and the modern game engines actually take care of that for you. And it's not likely that you're going to be doing that. It's going to be the game producer who's going to be throwing that sound onto that object and running the game through. And if they're not happy, they'll go in and they'll adjust the parametrics within the game engine itself.
Wow. That's amazing.
Super useful.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about?
Get Soundly is the sound effect database format that everyone's going for tagging their sounds. I put a link in the Zoom chat, but it's getsoundly.com.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I just put that in the chat. And everyone's happy. I have nothing else unless Aussie Rob, your hand's still up.
I'm going to put all my hands up just because I can. I'm just lazy. I'm a lazy fucker. All right,
All right. I think we've come to a nice cadence to go and have 11sies. I want to thank you all. This has been really, really positive. Really, so much stuff here. I'll just end with a piece of mental health. I have two things that are really helpful for me defragmenting my brain, because I think everybody's brain is terrifyingly fragmented currently. One is I do puzzles. I do like cipher puzzles. You know, here's a bunch of letters and you have to cipher them out and they mean something. And it's a really good way to get the fuck away from a computer because it's on paper. And to do this stuff, it's a wonderful way to chill my brain out. The other one is watching the IT Crowd. That if you've never watched the IT Crowd, you need to watch the IT Crowd, because it will... It's a very good thing. But yeah, exercising your brain away from the computer, actually doing something using paper and pen. Because there's all this time on the internet is just destroying my mind constantly. It's really funny that if I'm not near my phone now, this didn't happen a year ago. If I'm not near my phone, I have an anxiety attack, because it's like something's gonna go wrong. So nothing has ever gone wrong, and if something goes wrong, people call 911 or 1384685 and or you know, it's just a very bizarre thing that I'm becoming aware of. So ripping myself away from this freaking technology. Rob, I see your hand go.
Yeah, mental health is very important for everyone who's stuck at home working all the time, and I don't think anyone on the planet hasn't been affected by COVID isolating people. I spend a couple of hours a week chatting to my buddies back in Australia just for our own mental health, because you've got to talk about this stuff. And I've also, gone off social media. I'm not suggesting that a musician should, because you've got to promote yourself, but I don't have a lot of those pressures. So I've gone off things like Facebook for 3 months at a time. And I realized that I didn't have to pick up my phone anymore. I didn't have this dependency to pick it up. And it was such a clear cleansing outcome. Even after like 3 or 4 weeks, I didn't have any of that mental stress because I wasn't being addicted to the phone, and I wasn't worried about what was going on social media. It's kind of like taking a mental holiday even when you're working. Totally encourage it.
Can I thank you? I see you, Julie. So just pick up on that. So I got banned from Facebook for a month because one of the groups is Black Pill, Red Pill, which is the record label, which has been confused for the Red Pill misogynist male movement, which I have nothing to do with. So they banned me for a month. It was the best month of my life because I couldn't check this stupid shit. And when I went back online, nothing had changed. It's just so curious how there is this new economy, this currency of likes, that all of this is being invested into. Are they liking me? Are they following me? Sure, to a degree that's important for a band or a business that exists online, but, there's a balance. I don't even have the energy to go into this. Julius, hit me with your wisdom.
Just about mental health again. The appeal coming from me, suffering from depression and suffering from heavy depression during the last months. Do your workouts and eat healthy. This is so fucking important. Do it.
Yeah. And that's probably a really good area to leave this, because there's nothing more important than mental health. So here's the outcome of today. 1, we all need to take some time offline where you get your phone and you are going to spend several hours away from your phone. If it's gardening or whatever it is, even a day, spend time off your phone. Eat healthy and exercise. Maybe go for a walk and don't take your phone. I don't know. Secondly, there's a bunch of very creative people here and also on the chats. So jump on Angelspit's Discord. If you search Discord for Angelspit, I don't know how it fucking works. Hook up with someone to do some writing with them. And it is a breath of fresh air. It's a really, really good thing. And thirdly, do an improvisation. Even if it's lyrics, even if it's live, if it's not, doesn't matter. Challenge yourself, push yourself. Do something crazy. Crazy and risky this week. That's what we're going to do, something crazy and risky. We're done. Thank you so much for joining us. And a big thank you to Kitty and Adam and Aaron, who was in the chats, and everybody else in the chats. And what we're going to do is we're going to right over to MTV TV because it's the place. It's the place to be. So, bye.